Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try and solve a modern mystery. Have you ever stopped to think about how that supercomputer in your pocket gets wildly better and cheaper every single year, but the simple roof over your head feels like it's going backwards in time? It's becoming less affordable, less efficient. What is going on?
Okay, let's just dive right in with a comparison that says it all. Picture this. Back in the 1960s, a postman working on a single salary could support a family and comfortably own a home. Now, flash forward to today. A highly paid professional, maybe with two incomes, might struggle to afford that exact same house. And that's not just some story, right? That's the economic reality for millions. And it's the absolute core of the problem we're digging into today.
So yeah, this is the big question, isn't it? We're going to treat this whole economic puzzle like a mystery, like a detective story. We're going to look for clues that explain why our housing situation feels almost medieval, even though we're living in an age of pretty futuristic technology. So, to kick things off, let's just establish the scene of the crime. We're looking at this really strange economic reversal, a situation where one part of our lives has just rocketed into the future, while another has been dragged kicking and screaming into the past. And look, this isn't just you feeling nostalgic for the good old days. It's a real, measurable economic thing. All our incredible gadgets make us feel richer as consumers, for sure, but that struggle to just lock down a basic need, like a house, actually makes a lot of us feel poorer than the generations that came before us. All right, here's our first major clue. It comes from a theory about a massive split that's happened right down the middle of our economy. It's basically created two completely different realities that are somehow existing at the exact same time. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. On one track, you've got all the mass-produced stuff, phones, TVs, cars. The price keeps going down, and the quality keeps going up. It's amazing. But then there's this other, slower track with things like housing and college tuition. Here, the prices have just exploded, while the quality, it's pretty much stayed the same. It's like one pocket is getting filled up with savings, while the other has a giant hole in it, and that hole is labeled housing. Which brings us to this rule of thumb that we've all had drilled into our heads. Don't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. We treat it like financial gospel. But was it handed down by economists on a stone tablet, or did it come from somewhere a little more random? Well, get this. The 30% rule was never some universal law of economics. It started with something called the Brooke Amendment. It was a policy designed to put a cap on rent for the absolute poorest Americans living in public housing. And then somehow, this number, meant as a form of targeted assistance, just kind of leaked out and became the unofficial benchmark for the entire middle class. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's a lot like the 2% inflation target that all the central banks aim for. That whole thing started from just an offhand comment by a finance minister in New Zealand. It just shows you how these arbitrary moments, not some deep economic science, have ended up shaping our entire financial lives. Okay, now let's get to our prime suspect, the transformation of the house itself. Let's look at how simple shelter turned into a financial asset. Let's just think logically for a second. In any sane world, a house should be a depreciating asset. It's made of wood and bricks and pipes that wear down over time. It needs constant maintenance. Just like a car, it should get cheaper as it gets older. But nope. Instead, it's become this financial commodity, an investment that you're supposed to hoard with the expectation that its value will just go up and up forever. And if you want to see how extreme this has gotten, just look at this number, $12 trillion. That's the value of the real estate market in Australia, a country with roughly the same number of people as the state of Florida. That isn't a measure of shelter, folks. That's a measure of a massive speculative bubble. So let's be really clear about what's happening. When you buy a house today, the price has almost nothing to do with the cost of the labor or the materials that went into building it. You are primarily paying for the patch of dirt it sits on, and the value of that dirt has been inflated by decades of financial speculation and artificial scarcity. So what does that create? Well, it creates a system that functions a lot like a generational pyramid scheme. Think about it. The only way for current owners to cash out on their big investment is to sell that house to someone from the next generation at an even more ridiculous price. And that just pushes the dream of ownership further and further away for everyone else. But here's the thing. It wasn't always like this. Not even close.
Let's take a look back at a historical solution, a massive system reset that was designed specifically to make land accessible, not scarce. Back in 1862, the government had this pretty radical idea called the Homestead Act. They basically saw a clogged system and decided to just open the valve. The deal was simple. Go west, claim a huge piece of public land, 160 acres, and if you live on it and make it better for 5 years, it was yours for free. Think about that. It completely decoupled the right to have shelter from a lifetime of crushing debt. This just shows you the incredible power of policy. Now, we have to acknowledge that this came at a tragic, terrible cost to Native Americans, whose land was being given away. But if we look at it through a purely economic lens, it was a giant reset button. It was a policy aimed at creating owners, not a generation of debtors. Now, fast forward to today, and we're living in the complete opposite of that. We're in what you could call the land trap. All the economic gains we make, all the money we save from our cheaper TVs and more efficient cars, it all gets immediately vacuumed up by the ever-increasing cost of just having a place to live. It's a black hole for our money. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've looked at the history, so now what? What's the playbook? What are some of the proposed solutions to fix this medieval market that's stuck inside our high-tech world? All right, these are some big ideas, and they really challenge the way we think about housing. First up, a land value tax. Sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. You tax the value of the land itself, not the house you build on it. This makes it really expensive to just sit on empty, valuable land. Second, get housing out of the speculative financial markets. Start treating homes more like critical infrastructure and less like stocks you gamble on. And third, price homes on a cost-plus model. That means the price is based on what it actually costs to build, labor plus materials, not just what a desperate buyer is willing to pay. The goal for all of these? Turn houses back into homes. And this whole problem matters so much for the wider economy because of something called dead capital. All that wealth that's tied up in our houses, it's stuck. You can't eat your kitchen counter, and you can't use your backyard to fund a startup unless you go even deeper into debt. It's wealth that isn't moving, isn't fueling innovation. It's just sitting there. So at the end of the day, this is really a choice about capital allocation. As a society, we are pouring trillions and trillions of dollars into the dirt under our feet, which is arguably our least productive asset. And every dollar that goes there is a dollar that isn't funding a new company, a new technology, or a breakthrough idea. And that's what it all comes down to. This is the choice we have to make. You know, the greatest trick the 21st century economy ever pulled was convincing us all that paying $1 million for a tiny 1950s bungalow is somehow progress. But the real question for our future is this. Do we want to be a society of landlords profiting from scarcity, or a society of innovators creating new value? Because right now, the rent is eating the future.